My name is Arminée Choukassizian. I'm the author of this collection of poems, which includes 42 in English and 10 in French. I know both languages quite well. I'm a second-generation AUB graduate because my mother graduated as a medical doctor in 1936, in June 1936. She was one of 3 female doctors. One was Salwa Khouri, who got into the WHO, represented Lebanon, and the other lady was Ida Kunstler, who married Sheikh Najib Alamuddin. Yes, and his daughter Rima, of course, who was killed, and myself were very close friends, and there's a poem here in memoriam for her. Yeah. Okay. Now, I wasn't born here. I never knew Lebanon before I came to school here, in Beirut. My mother got appointed. She was the first doctor for girls' schools in Baghdad, and she ended up there. When she got to the visa, well, of course, she was a brilliant woman, and she got the job. Yeah. She said, I don't know Arabic. They said, you say you know. So she took lessons in Arabic, right? So she was appointed medical doctor for girls' schools from the age of 5 to the age of 18. And she had very prominent memories. She was the first person, the first medical doctor to start files for each student. And they told her, what for? The girl has nothing. There's nothing wrong with her. She said, no. You see, she must have her file. And the file says the father's name, the mother's name, her weight, and her date of birth. This was one of her achievements. Yes. I have been to French schools. I'm a product of Les Dames de Nazareth. Yes, I know good French. Yes, and English was my, I should say, third language in a way. Yes, because Armenian was spoken at home, and then there was, of course, I learned English from my mother. She made me read nursery rhymes, tell stories, and so I had a good vocabulary. Even by the age of 6, I knew quite a bit of English, right? And then, of course, I went to a French school in Baghdad. And then, of course, I came here. She brought me to Lebanon to Les Dames de Nazareth, which was a very, very, at the time. Now the school has changed a lot, yes. It had a very high reputation. At the time, it was said that Jamour was for the boys, what Les Dames de Nazareth was for girls, of course, as far as the standing of the school is concerned. So I did until bac première partie. Then my mother told me, now you're going to change systems. I said, why should I change systems? I continue the French. She said, no, now you're going to change. And so what do I do? She got me to Beirut College for Women, which was a women's college then, of course. Now it's a copy of AUB, yes. And I wouldn't like to say anything more about that. So I went there. And it was a totally new atmosphere for me, very different from the background I had been accustomed to. Yes. I was in Section A in English. Now, the others, the other girls, the higher the section, like A, you have few students. There were until J, K, right? So in those sections, there were many, many students. Very few would get into Section A or B, right? So my other classmates were not happy because they came from this American high school system, and they were in other sections. There was I coming from a French school, I was in Section A, right? Now, the French educational system has a different way, has a different approach, you see, has a more analytical approach, at least it did then, yes. And it teaches you the language really thoroughly, yeah. If you intend to get somewhere, and you do get somewhere, of course, yes. It's a big asset. So I got my BA in June 1961. Yeah. At first I thought I would major in psychology, and for a year and a half I majored in psychology. Then one day I went and told my parents, no, I want to change. I don't want psychology anymore. So they said, why? What happened? I said, I don't like it anymore. I don't want it. So I moved into education and English literature, but English was the main interest as far as my interest as far as I was concerned. But they advised me, my late parents, by telling me, listen, you can't change all the time. You'll never finish. However, I didn't miss anything. Freshman, sophomore, junior year, in June 1961, I got my BA. Yes. In October, where was I? I was here at AUB. Yeah. So she said, there's no time to waste. So you go down to AUB now. Right. Since I had changed, my major, so I was considered a special student for a while, but that was no problem, of course. I became a graduate student, right? And of course, I majored in English literature. My thesis for the MA degree was on Catherine Mansfield, of course, the author of short stories, very well known, born in New Zealand, who died in London in the 1920s. Yes. She had a rather disturbed emotional life, but her short stories speak to you. Yes. Yeah. They're not all of the same length, but most of them speak to you. So as a student at AUB, I was very active. I was the feature article editor of Outlook. My articles were on page 1. Had I known, I would have brought with me, had I known of this event, I would have brought with me one copy of an Outlook. Page 1. Yes. So I also was, of course, the editor of Crescendo magazine, music, because I perform, I play in public, and I was very active there. My piano teacher was the late composer, of course, Salvador Arnita. My favorite composer is Chopin. At present, I play only Chopin. Yeah. My joke is that Chopin died and classical music died with him. Of course, this horrifies many. I don't mean it, of course. It's only a joke. Yeah, I know much better than that. Yes. So I got my master's degree with a thesis on Catherine Mansfield. The title is Catherine Mansfield on the Writer's Craft. So it's an analysis. Yes. Then I worked at Jaffet Library. Yes. I was here for over 30 years. I was in the serials department. Yes. Cataloging periodicals. But my interest is in research. I'm very interested in looking up things, finding out, trying to find and helping others with my knowledge and the information I have. Yeah. I also have an MPhil, Master of Philosophy degree in English literature from Queen Mary College, University of London. And now, then I moved from English literature to Anglo-Irish literature, which is the literature written by Irishmen who wrote in English, like, of course, W.B. Yeats, James Joyce, John Millington Synge, Samuel Beckett. So I'm considered to be an expert in Anglo-Irish literature, of course, yes. So I have an MPhil degree. It's a good piece of work, which shows a lot of research, right, and reveals, a certain amount of knowledge. I also have an unfinished PhD dissertation. Who knows, I may present it. Yeah, who knows? With me, you never know, right? Now, then I moved on into teaching. I became a senior lecturer. I give courses to seniors. I've taught for many years at LIU, that's the Lebanese International University, at AUST. At first, I ended up at the Jama al-Islamiyya, Islamic University, Khaldi? Yes. I teach English literature to students who are about to get a BA degree. Yes. And I ask for analysis. I can tell you a little something, which may sound funny to you. It seems the students used to tell me, because I always ask the question, why? Why? Yeah, and this bothered. Like, we have studied the work, right? They're supposed to have read it. Yes. In my analysis, there's always the question, why? And this bothered some students. So a group of them went up to the head of the department, because one student told me, I'm about to get a BA, no teacher ever told me why. And he asked me why, and I'm not able to answer. I said, because I want you to think. If I ask why, that is exactly the reason. So they went up to the head of the department. They had taken an appointment. A whole group, imagine, complaining about me because I was asking them why. And the head of the department said, but I see no complaint there. She does very well. If she asks you why, she makes you think. After their meeting with the head of the department called me. I said, what on earth does he want to see me for? I've done nothing wrong. I'm very punctual. I'm on campus an hour before my class is due. They used to look at their watch. They said, is something wrong with her? She's already here. There's still an hour. Others run to their class. Okay. So the head of the department called me. He said, you know, the students came and you're asking why. You're doing very well. You go on. You don't change. You go on asking why. You make them answer the question why in their written exams. So I didn't change, and I don't intend to change, of course. Right. I've done some editing. Yes. So I have had a few things published here and there. Right. And I'm still very interested and very active. When I was at the French school, my mother used to, at first I was a boarder, so of course I was allowed to go out, and my mother used to take me out. On several occasions, she brought me to AUB. Yes. And at the time she told me, of course, at the main gate, yeah, she told me, I hope my girl, one day you too will be a graduate of AUB. Yes, that moved me. Right. I was interviewed for the main gate program, but I've just found out that the recording has been deleted, so I can't have a copy of it, because I was asked some questions, and well, I certainly answered all the questions, yes. AUB has always meant a lot to me. I love AUB, yes. It has prepared us, yeah, to face life. Academically, I have nothing to say, but I have only praise. All I have is praise. I have written here for the 100th year of AUB in 1966. And this year, of course, is 50 years since I graduated. I was, in February 1966, I was the first Lebanese female, لأن كان في لبناني قبل مني, بس أنا of course لبنانية, to graduate with a Master of Arts degree in English Literature. I would like to share with you this once in 100 years. At the time, the late President Samuel Kirkwood made me read this poem at a gala dinner. But I'm not an organized person, so I don't have, I couldn't find a copy of the picture. I know there were pictures taken at the event. Old Father Time at dawn, early rays tipping his spade, with his long reaping hook, made a solitary visit to the campus, once in 100 years. His rod sounded on the uneven stones. Covered paths, flowered beds, cold stairways, ragged archives in well-equipped libraries, buildings old and new, with rocks and bricks cemented tight, kept old sweet memories of bygone days. His rod sounded on the uneven stones. Covered paths, flowered beds, Cold stairways, ragged archives, in well-equipped libraries, buildings old and new with rocks and bricks covered tight, kept old sweet memories of bygone days. The clock ticks the minutes, striking the hour. The chair of learning as the healthy tree in time grew of the small dry seed. Fierce unkind winds, in vain in 100 years, tried to smother the fruitful trees. Faithful children today, glorifying the meaningful day of 100 years ago, respond to the call of truth and honesty. The hollow reaping hook sounded on the uneven stones as the blessing of Father Time, blessed be, was over all. Yeah. I was asked to read this poem 10 days ago, and the poem has gone in the box, in the wooden box, which will be open in 50 years. In 50 years, of course, I will not be around, but the poem will be read. Yes, the time capsule. We were three. I was the first. There was Dr. Mahyo, and there was, of course, Leila Badr, who said something about the library. Right. So this poem is here. I have other poems. Some are lost because I don't know where they are. I have snatches of things. Yeah. Now I'm working on a collection of short stories, but it's not ready for publication. I have other ideas. I must also mention that I have only one sister. We're just two daughters. My mother never had a miscarriage or an abortion. My sister also finished Beirut College for Women in June '64. My late mother did exactly the same thing with her. She brought her down to AUB. She registered for a master's, and she got her MA degree in ancient history in June 1967. Next year, she celebrates 50 years. Now, there was the June War, so there was no graduation ceremony. And she went up to the School of Arts and Sciences. There was a yellow pad you used to sign your name and get your diploma. And of course, she wanted to have a nice graduation. Yeah. Of course, since we come from Iraq, she was interested in Hammurabi. And her thesis is, she got an excellent on both the written and the thesis. She reads cuneiform, she reads Assyrian, and she reads Babylonian, you see. So I should mention her, of course, yes. We're only two. This is her area of interest. Now, AUB, as I mentioned in the poem, is everything for us. It taught us truth and honesty. The faculty emphasized in their training, their training of our mind, of course, of our critical ability, yes, to distinguish good from evil, yes, and truth from dishonesty. As I say here, yes, truth and honesty. These are the two major things AUB taught us. Now, so I was here during the war in '67, so was my sister. My sister at present lives in Berlin. I go roughly twice a year to Berlin, and I know some German. I know 6 languages. Yeah. Now, there was the June War, the 5-day war. Yes. So we were asked to blacken the window panes, remember? Yes, but the war was basically over. Yes, and we had no electricity. And I remember the Israeli tanks going over Mercedes cars, and the car became flat. The tank moved over the cars. Yes, and the rows of, because I used to live very close to AUB, so the rows of Israeli soldiers going up, coming from downtown roughly to AUB. Yes, and we watched them through the window, and we weren't very happy, of course. We were scared, very scared. Yeah. Now, that was then of course I lived most of the 75 to 90 war. Yes. I was among the few, because I lived close by at the time. The head librarian was Helen Bukhazi. Yes. So we used to come to work at 8. We were only 4. There was no electricity. My desk was there. The setup was different at the time. Yes, no electricity. Nobody around. Absolutely nobody around. Yes. So the door to the library was opened. We went in. Of course, the shooting started. In 5 minutes, we were told to go back home. Yes. One day, I reached the medical gate. الحراس قالوا لي وين ساكني؟ I said أول كليمانسو. فيكي تروحي قال لي. غير هيك ما بتقدري. I'm sorry. أول كليمانسو فيكي تروحي. So وصلت على هون على البيت بالسلامة. Now, during the war, yes, so a young man who was very tall, Scaf, yes, was kidnapped, and we never saw him again. Yes, we never saw him again. Yes. The library, there was Peter Kilburn, librarian, very, very knowledgeable person. There was Douglas Lee, who used to teach the political science department, who was kidnapped, and of course, he was killed, and so was Peter Kilburn. Peter Kilburn was acquisitions librarian, and then he became a collection developer. Yeah, very learned man, yes, who had written a first draft of a PhD dissertation in anthropology. He had traveled all over the world. He had been to Russia several times. Yes. The young man who used to work at the circulation, the name was Simon Scaf. Yes, very helpful person who disappeared, and that was it. You had 2 worries: to get out of it safe, وترجعي على بيتك تشوفي البيت بعده مثل ما هو، الشقة مثل ما هي. Anyway, the Israeli invasion of Beirut was in June 1982, yes, but the war was in 1967. Yes, sure. So if I aroused any confusion, I'm sorry for that. Yeah, so I have corrected myself. During the war, there was no electricity, no water, absolutely no water. People used to carry 2 bottles of water home. Yes, and I know several who had their daily bath with 1 bottle of water. 1 bottle of water. Yes, yes. People used to come here. This was the haven for them. Yes, they used to have their meal, cafeteria. The place was full of flies. Yes, full of flies. I'm sorry. Whatever food they had was, of course, more than welcome for the people. Yes, this place has been a haven for the educated as well as for the less educated. Yes, the less educated, of course, used to make use of the facilities, water, toilet, right? People used to get into some showers. Yes, and have their shower at least once a week. Yes. For the educated, of course, they used to wander into the library, spend a few minutes, and go home. The streets in Hamra, all this area, not just Hamra, yes, by 2 o'clock, were absolutely empty. During the day, everybody used to go. You used to queue up, Dem Idris, and you used to get in, and of course, it was a rip-off, because Idris used to sell, and he got caught, things that were out of date. Yes, but of course, you want to buy some bread, you want to buy a few things to eat, شو ما كان. Yeah, and of course, he made a very, very big fortune. كان يبقى واحد واقف على الباب ينزله, right? Okay. So بفوت كذا شخص يطلعوا كذا شخص يرجع يفوت to do their everyday shopping. So you used to see some people on the streets around until 1. By 2 o'clock ما في حدا. There used to be trucks that used to sell some خضرة, and of course دجاج مجلد. You remember? Yes, some of you must remember this. Yes. So كانوا يجيبوا من برا, and يعني people used to buy, and if you had, there wasn't a shortage of food, but basically not that much. But of course, people were very unhappy because people were insecure, and you never knew. Yes. القصف كان يبلش بالليل, بس تغيب الشمس, things change. Yes. And you never knew if you were going to make it to the other day, next day. مين بيعرف? Yeah. Because I know people who didn't make it to the next day. Now, في ناس هربوا, نزلوا على ملاجئ, مثلا one ملجأ was بالجفينار. Yes. But I'm very sorry to say, I know of 2 people نزلوا, بس بيتهم راح, of course, نزلوا على الملجأ. One got hit. Oh yes. So basically I know 3 people. One got hit وهو نازل على الملجأ. Yes. للأسف اجت له شظية. Yes. Yeah. The other 2 made it. But when they went back to their apartment, the apartment was hit. Yes. And had been in flames. Yes. These were very, very, I'm sorry that these memories will not go. Yeah. Well, I, for one, will be carrying them to my grave. Yes. I was very saddened, very sorry. I didn't want to have such an experience. Yeah, but it is in my blood. Yes, it is in my marrow. Yes, yes. I didn't want to be here, but I had to, and well, I'm sorry. However, I hope this thing will never happen again. It was very bad for Lebanon. It was very bad for, of course, its people. Yeah, it was nothing positive. Yes, because victims were innocent. Yeah, people who got killed had nothing to do. Yes, it just happened that you were not lucky enough, and you were there at that point in time. You were there. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. AUB has produced many intellectuals, especially from the Arab world. Yes, students, you see, the experience it gives you, unlike some other universities. It has, of course, strong historical tradition, right? It has a rich library. Yes, it always has had a rich library. You can always find something which would be related to your research. Yes. Now, of course, things have changed. You have the internet, which we did not have at the time. Yes. When I graduated, there was no internet. Yes. But it still was AUB, and I hope it will remain so. I think it will. I'm very optimistic about that. Yes. Most of the leaders in the Arab world have studied at AUB, have spent some time in the. In fact, Afghanistan's president has studied here, right? Making friends is not something easy. It's not like touch and go. It takes time. Yeah, there must be some similarity between 2 people in order to build a friendship. You may have hundreds of acquaintances. Everybody is, like the Americans say, hi and bye. And 2 minutes later, the same person encounters you and he doesn't even greet you. But he spent, right, a whole hour talking to you. Yeah. But that's over. Yeah. I have made some friendships and I'm very proud to say that now after 50 years, those people, of course, I'm very glad they're still alive. And may they have a very long life, and may they stay healthy, and they're still my friends, and they will remain my friends until the very end. As far as music was concerned, yes, I was a child prodigy, and at the age of 7, I have performed in public in Baghdad, yes. And I was a good piano player, yes. I had a very good Romanian teacher who used to teach at the conservatoire, and he did not accept students because he did not accept any children. He said, I have my own practice. I don't have the time to waste with a child. My late mother told him, let her come and play to you once. Just once, Professor. And the name was Hertz. Yes. Hertz is basically a Jewish name, but he used to say that he was a Christian. So she took an appointment, and she told him that I knew how to read the notes very well, which she had taught me. So she took an appointment, and one day she told me, now you're going to go and perform to a big, very well-known pianist. I knew nothing, of course. So she took me to the man. She had taken the appointment. I went and played. And the man was impressed by me in a way. He said, I will break my rule and I will accept her as a student. I didn't know what that meant. Yeah. The man had a Steinway piano which he had ordered from Switzerland. He had a nice garden. He pulled the piano, he took it out to the garden, and then there was a reception, of course. He made his students, his good students, perform. And there were, of course, the parents. My mother was a demanding person. Yes. She was always after us. So things were not good enough for her, We had to be better. Sometimes that would annoy us, but that's okay. That's not the point I'm trying to make. So I was the only one, and he had given me 2 pieces by Chopin. One was a waltz, and the other was a mazurka. Of course, I was among the youngest. Yes. I was the only one that day who played 2 pieces. Right. And people congratulated my mother. I didn't realize, and I had made her day for her. After the event, of course, around 6, sometime in June, it's very hot in Baghdad. It's extremely hot. It's nothing compared to, this is nothing compared to the weather in Baghdad. There was a reception, and I remember the man served lemonade, yes, and of course some cookies, and his wife was around. But I was, I had played 2 pieces. I was the only one. And she had heard some good comments about me, yes, that I was promising. And then one day, I said, I don't want to play anymore. At AUB, Professor Arnita used to make me perform. You will see. And in fact, in 2013, I performed West Hall with 2 other pianists. For my 45th anniversary 5 years ago, I performed 2 pieces by Chopin in the Assembly Hall. At the time, Arabia Usairan was responsible. Yes, now she's not here anymore. She has left AUB. One day, yes, I said, I don't want to play anymore. And for roughly 30 years, I did not play at all. And then I went back to the late Zakaria Sarkisian. And who is she? She's the teacher of Abdurrahman Basha. Abdurrahman al-Basha, who's a friend of mine, and of course, Walid Hourani. And I went and told her, at some point in time, I had 3 pianos. Now I don't need 3 pianos anymore, I have only 1. I had a piano at home in the villa in Baghdad. I had a piano in the apartment here, and a piano in Hamdoun, where I used to estimate. All right. So I went and told the late Zakaria Sarkisian, but she knew that I was gifted. She said, yes, but I said, I have no piano. She said, you come and practice here. So I started practicing again, and she gave me lessons. And of course, she improved my technique. Yes. And the famous French pianist, Elisabeth Sombart, was impressed by me. I was one of the 2 she accepted as her students. Yes. She comes to Lebanon once a year. She gives master classes, and I always have something to perform. And I ask her to listen to me, yes, and make some comments she has. Yes. As I said at the beginning, for me, there's only one composer. It's Chopin. He's a romantic, and he's also a nationalist. Yes. Chopin loved his country, although he died in Paris. Of course. He was a revolutionary. And he felt very sorry that, of course, Russia, right? Yeah. Russia and Poland, of course, have never been on very friendly terms, to put it mildly. This is from Bab al-Sharqi. Yeah, of course. Yes. عندي حنين. Yes, of course. هذا ساحة التحرير. Yes. This was made, yes. After the revolution, you see the soldiers breaking the iron rods. Yes. So I would like to read. Here, of course, this is when I spent days, hours in the archives department. كانوا يقولوا لي بدنا نسكر. I'm sorry. فيكي ترجعي تجي بكرة. Finding things which I had forgotten in Outlook. This is a story, a poem about the Malwiya. Yeah. Yes. In the north of Iraq. And I'm going to, yes. Here I have, of course, the Tigris. Yes. The river has not changed. And the river, the color of the river is not blue. It's muddy. Yes. But this is the old, of course, river Tigris. I would like to read to you the Ziggurat. Yes, Al-Malwiya, the Ziggurat in Samarra. Samarra is in the northern direction of Baghdad. Head northwest from Baghdad to behold this wonder in sandstone on the Tigris. The spiral-shaped Ziggurat in Samarra. This imposing presence towers upon you. Yes. Shirahib, when you see it. It hovers alone, ascending to heaven, and awestruck you take in. Yes. I will never get over that first impression. It's huge, huge. How could they build it? Yeah. O believing pilgrim, were you able to climb to the top? That ever-narrowing staircase leading to the 8th arched round minaret, glorify the majesty of your Creator. Yeah, if ever you're able. Of course, you cannot, yeah, because it narrows. It becomes narrower and narrower. Yes, it's huge. The color is just like it is in this picture, brownish. Yes, there you are. Yes, yes. This is it. This is the Samarra. Yes, the Ziggurat. Yes, Malwiya in Arabic, Malwiya b'Samarra. Yes, yes. But that first impression, yeah. It's like a skyscraper. Yeah, it's like a skyscraper. Yes, in a different way. Yeah.